What's up, guys? It's Crash, and Tom Henderson got some information about an internal town hall meeting between EA management and DICE with employees talking about the failed launch of Battlefield 2042. And I have the article pulled up. I want to talk about some of the high points and react to it, but I'm not going to show the article. I want you guys at the end of this video, that's key, at the end of the video, go click on the link down below in the description and give Tom some traffic. He did a really good job putting this together really quickly. The call happened today. He got the article out, and the man deserves some web traffic. So at the end of the video, please click on the link in the description and go check out his full entire article, because he also offers some of his insight, which I think is really valuable. I'm going to take some of the quotes that they talked about and give you guys my opinion, and then your opinion goes in the comments below, and I'd love to hear from you. So in the call, executives spent over 20 minutes discussing what went wrong with the launch of Battlefield, and most of these quotes come from our great friend of the channel, Laura, earliest alpha ever, Miele. Yes, the game is way ahead of schedule herself, Laura Miele, and she goes on to say, it's really important to acknowledge when we have misses. This is certainly the case with the Battlefield launch, which failed to meet the expectations of our players and also clearly missed our own expectations. And on the surface, you're like, all right, cool. I really respect someone that can say they messed up and they want to do better and are going to move on. But it doesn't exactly go the way you think. In my opinion, as we're going to find out, I feel like they're either playing the victim when people say they did a bad job, or they are passing the buck and not taking responsibility for the poor design decisions and the lack of listening to community. But I don't want to spoil it, so let's go on. She basically talked about what Tom Henderson said in his Battlefield 2042 what happened timeline, that basically they had to do a new engine. The engine was outdated and it took an extremely long time. Tom independently reported it took them over 18 months before they could just start working on the game. So they basically had a new engine, and then Laura goes on to say, add all of that new innovation and the new engine and ambition for the project, and then you have to do that from home. So again, talking about all the challenges that all studios, and I'm not making light of it, all studios are dealing with, and it's definitely something that should be dealt with. And honestly, this is a real thing, and developers had a lot of challenges to get this game out the door. And my question to Laura would be, if they had all these challenges, why did EA not give them more time? Yeah, hit me up on Twitter, FPS Crash, and let me know, Miss Miele, like why didn't they get more time if they had all these challenges? Moving on. She goes on to say there was a substantial amount of positive feedback from players saying, this feels like Battlefield is back. This is my Battlefield. So we had to embolden the team. Who in the said that this game felt like Battlefield and Battlefield is back? Now, I'm not saying you can't enjoy the game. It is a first-person shooter game, and you have every single right in the world to enjoy the game. But with Specialists, lack of class system, the way the maps are set up and the objectives, and how the vehicles are balanced, and just the overall, like, the feel and the vibe of the game does not feel like Battlefield, and this is my opinion, with all the corny one-liners in the Specialist and the lightheartedness of that, rather than the dark grittiness that we felt in Battlefield 1 and somewhat in Battlefield 5. So to say it feels like Battlefield, I will go on to talk about it a little bit later. Who tested these games early on and gave them feedback? Because I really feel like we could have avoided a lot of these issues if we would have tested them with veterans of the franchise and some of the really smart creators that are out there that have been with this franchise for a lot longer than I have. They have some very valuable input that I wish would have been listened to. She then goes on to reveal that 2042's bug count ratio got to historic levels for a DICE game, so a higher amount of bugs. But she says, but our mock reviews prior to launch were in the high 70s to low 80s, so trying to justify the launch, which we all know was to get holiday sales. She goes on to say, following the game's launch, DICE rolled out its day 1 and 0 patches to get the bug count down further. So I'm assuming she's talking about the patches that happened after the week 1 early access, which was abysmal performance-wise. And she went on to say, this made sure the game was stable, and it made early critical reception good. Early critical reception of Battlefield 2042 was good. I'm not sure what reception she's talking about, if she's talking about actual critics with critical reception. We all know that they gave the game really high scores, and they traditionally do this so they continue to get early access games to get clicks to their website, so they give them good reviews so they keep getting early access. It's a whole marketing thing. And then this is where we go completely off the rails. Tom says he wished he was joking in this article. According to EA, things took a turn at the surprise release of Halo Infinite multiplayer. So this is just an incredible case of passing the buck and not taking responsibility for a messed up launch, and it just a disconnect with your community. They're saying that the surprise release of Halo, an arena shooter, 4v4 or 5v5, caused issues, and it was because it was polished is the reason that people don't like Battlefield. I know that if I go on the forums and feedback and I look at Steam reviews, she's right, almost all of those reviews are saying, man, I was playing this game and having fun until I saw Halo. What? It's so confusing, man. It doesn't make any sense. So I mean, they're not even the same games, completely like different settings, styles, scale, like destruction versus like arena shooter. They're not even that similar in my opinion. She then goes on to say the game's poor Steam reviews were put down to PC players having a performance cap. And what I take that to mean is, since there's no real performance cap on frames, the actual performance cap is terrible optimization and a bad engine. She then says players on Steam found that upsetting. In addition to negative player feedback overall, was focused on 3 key areas, which EA would further elaborate on: bugs in performance, game design and feature choices, the game not aligning with players' expectations. All very true. Bugs are terrible. The game design is not what most of the community enjoys, and we expected a lot different game based on the dark grittiness of the concept art we were shown and the trailers. And we now know why there was a lack of gunplay in the lead up to this game. But yeah, she says there's a performance cap on PC, and that just blows my mind. Instead of saying our engine was not optimized, it didn't work well on PC, and we have a lot of work to do, she said they're upset that they had a performance cap. I've never heard an unoptimized game called a performance cap before. And then she goes on to echo the sentiments of Andrew Wilson, saying DICE historically is very good at adapting games in a live service, connecting, basically just fixing their mess ups. Then she acknowledged that player expectations have changed when it comes to live service games, and that it wasn't the right choice to remain anchored to the company's standards in comparison to previous DICE games. And I would argue wholeheartedly with that statement and ask, what standards of previous DICE games does this one hold up to? Because it's not any of the ones I played. They talk about the lack of features, choices, lack of scoreboard VoIP, and the specialists were mentioned for a brief moment, and we know that things are coming down the road to that. She said she addressed player testing in the early phases, and she says clearly we didn't go wide enough with different player segments. We really certainly didn't go deep enough with the game, so we did not bring players along with us, which is a big miss for the development cycle and the process of this game. And then some of the new hires, Byron Bede, Rebecca Kutaz, and Christian Krass, all went on to give their own thoughts, which echoed sentiments that we've already reported on, that they're working on. And it involved a new wider feedback from the public or select individuals, and a new streamlined way that DICE operates to get player feedback into the game quicker. So honestly, in my opinion, this is a textbook case of 1 step forward and 2 steps back. They acknowledge, I don't know how you can't, that player numbers are low. General sentiment of the game overall is negative. I'm not saying you can't have fun and enjoy the game. If you are, shout out, you're a champ. But to go ahead and blame it on Halo, blame it on a performance cap on PC, and just not doing enough play testing, rather than saying, hey, we made terrible design decisions on based on financials, and the game really suffered for it, and we're sorry and we want to fix it. I wish they would have said something like that, something similar to what the Call of Duty devs said in a meeting where they talked about how they messed up Warzone because they didn't plan on adding other games to it. That decision was made later and it didn't work out, and they're building the next Warzone, learning from those mistakes from the ground up. I would love something like that from DICE. It is DICE's turn, EA's turn, to do something like that and just come clean and be honest. And I feel like that would go a long way repairing the relationship between the community and the developers and the management at EA and DICE, which I hope happens. I want to talk about some of that stuff later in videos this week about how I think where the problem lies with the disconnect in communication, and hopefully we can get it fixed. Later on in this article, Tom gives some more of his insight and opinions, which are very valuable. He's a very smart man and an insider, so I would encourage you guys, again, at the end of this video right here, go ahead and click down below. I know we have a pretty small community, but hopefully we can get some web traffic to Tom's article. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I appreciate you more than you know, and we'll see you on the next one.